Here is the simplest health habit there is, one that so many don't do properly though. Hydration affects brain function, mood, decision-making, energy and physical output. So why is it that busy professionals are operating in a state of mild dehydration for most of their working day? My guest Nikola Howard is a metabolic health coach who brings both clinical expertise and real performance experience to a topic that tends to be either dismissed as obvious or overcomplicated by the wellness industry. I'm Ildiko Seely, your routine and performance strategist. And on Routine is Revenue, we look at how the small, consistent health habits compound into the performance you sustain in your business. Today, we start with water and the 5 electrolytes. So Nikola, you started your career as an IT professional and then became a leading keto expert, which is quite a change. But clearly, you understand what it means to fuel your body in order to perform well. Now you work with entrepreneurs and executives who are running at the same intensity as an athlete, perhaps, and making high-stakes decisions every single day. But eating, fueling your body and hydrating your body like it does not seem to match with the performance requirements. So what are they actually doing to their performance? And do they have any idea that they are doing it when they are not fueling or hydrating their body well?
When people eat, eating is such a simple thing. And yet it's one of the most bedrock things that we do. Eating, sleeping, getting sunshine, drinking water. These things are the foundation of a good life. And so when we are putting in mindless food and we aren't consuming enough water, that is actually detrimenting all of the cells in our bodies. And of course, our brains are some of those cells.
Yeah.
So when we're building on a wobbly foundation, everything in life is not going to be solid. And of course, one of the things we need to be solid is our businesses. So fueling appropriately and also eating appropriately. And there is a distinction we will possibly dive into later. Fueling ourselves well, eating well, consuming water in appropriate amounts. These things are, I believe, foundational to having a good business.
Yeah, I
And a good life.
totally share that with you. As you can see, I've got plenty of water here while we are conversing, and I make sure that you as well. There you go, a little online chin with our water jugs. Let's go into it a little bit more. So, what does mild hydration specifically do to brain function or even our moods, and most importantly, to our decision making when we are in business?
The body transmits everything it does via electricity. We are electrical beings. In terms of the way that then transmits in the body, it needs to be able to do it, which is why water is essential, but not just like distilled water with nothing in it. This is also where the electrolyte conversation comes in, because that makes water conductive. So, of
Okay.
course, the more fluid you have in your body, because, of course, blood is also fluid and it has to contain water. If you don't drink enough water, your blood actually gets a little bit thicker. Your blood pressure will increase. So all these little things add up to effectively pressures in the mind, either literal physical blood pressure, very not good, or also the pressure of not being able to literally the neurons fire as fast, because you need that conductivity with adequate hydration with electrolytes in it. So the 5 electrolytes are sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and phosphates, which is the one I always forget. And so having those 5 things in your body in balance means that this is firing appropriately. And
This
also
being your brain, just for the audio listeners.
the 7 pounds of wobbly grey matter in between your ears. Yes, your brain is firing appropriately. And that then means that you can think clearer, you can think faster. Everybody's speed of thinking is appropriate to them. But it also is reducing things like brain fog, which has a multitude of reasons beyond being badly hydrated. But it's definitely that bedrock of when we are appropriately hydrated, there's enough space for both the neurons to fire, the blood to pump, and it to stay appropriately beautiful in its own little wobbly darkness.
So let's have a look into the electrolytes a little bit more. So can we get these electrolytes purely from drinking water? Because that's one of the major recommendations, that you need to drink at least 2 liters of water in the day. But then when you said electrolytes, I was thinking, hang on a minute, there are various energy kind of drinks that you get when you go to the gym and stuff. Is that how people get electrolytes, or how do we go about it?
Okay, so some of this is depends on where you live. Some tap water is very, very pure, and so you won't get appropriate minerals in that water. Other, if you go live in Scotland, it is like drinking mineral water out the tap. This water in Scotland is amazing. The water where I live down south is very calcium rich. It's as hard as nails down here, so I never have to worry about calcium intake because, quite frankly, my glass of water is sorting that out. You can order a what's in your water. You normally go on your water board's website and you find out what's in it. But then, of course, you may then have to add in electrolytes appropriately depending on where you live in the country. And again, this is coming back to food quality, what you're eating. I know
Yeah.
I personally use low salt on my food, which is in the UK has a 50-50 split between potassium and sodium. So that sorts that out. Just put a little bit on my food. And in the summer when it gets hot and we're all a bit sweaty, I will put, if I'm starting to feel my brain going, I will put a little bit in my and just lick it. Animals do a salt lick. They will
Yeah.
walk miles to find a salt lick. It's that same principle.
Before we move forward too quickly, so going back to the water itself, did you say that we can literally go onto the local water board's website and ask for what the water contains? But then what happens when you have a filter installed on your tap, on your kitchen tap, let's say, and you use filtered water to drink and make tea with? Then do we actually remove all the goodness from it?
Not all. No filter is 100% perfect unless you're actually drinking what's called reverse osmosis water. And that is just 100% H2O. That is seen by some people as damaging. Other people think it's okay. I'm personally on that it's damaging because
Mm.
as that H2O on its own is going through your body, it is dragging minerals out of your body because it likes to live with them.
Right. Okay. That's
Water is
really interesting.
water chemically. Yeah, water chemically is such a strange molecule. It shouldn't do what it does when you put heat into it. There's water chemistry is a whole small branch of organic chemistry itself. So it likes, because it is slightly positively charged, it likes gathering ions to it. If I remember right, I think it's positively. So it likes gathering in the metallic ions. And that is how it therefore then becomes minorly conductive, which is how the body can then use it. We could talk for days
Yeah,
about water
we've gone
chemistry,
in quite
so we
physical on
won't.
this. I mean, it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But to
Mm.
sort of just bring it back to entrepreneurs and business owners, like, to really fully understand why it's so important to hydrate ourselves well. Mind you, I've never ever thought of it that way, that if you just drink pure water, that actually drains you from the minerals in your body. So we need to be an awful lot more aware of that, what kind of water we drink, even when we just drink water. Or like I drink fruit tea and herbal tea, so I don't even know what effect that has got. Like, because some argue that no, that doesn't, even though it's flavored cold water, is the way I see it. But others would argue that no, you have to drink water because there are some other things in there and it doesn't count as water. Well, to me it does, and it makes it
Um,
interesting.
I'm on the any fluid except alcohol is better than no fluid at all. So if tea is the way you're going to get fluid in, and I've got my teapot here as well from this morning. Um, Tea, coffee, herbal infusions, it all depends on what you put in. So tea and coffee have caffeine. So of course caffeine also takes water out of the body,
Yeah.
but not at the same rate as you're putting it in. And your kidneys can deal with that. No big
Okay.
deal. But yes, water, only water really counts as water. But any fluid, apart from alcohol, is better than no fluid at all, in my book. So if the way you have to get your water in is to put squash in it or drink it as herbal tea or even a few cups of coffee or a few cups of tea every day, in my book, that works.
That's fine. So when we're talking about feeling thirsty, at what point do we feel thirsty? Are we already severely dehydrated by the time we feel thirsty?
Not severely, but again, thirst is almost a very subjective thing. So I've actually got clients who don't have that sense of thirst.
Oh, how interesting.
And try to describe to her what thirsty feels like. She's no, I haven't got any of that. I
Oh,
no,
wow.
don't. And so for her, it was actually quite a big challenge, and that's where building habits come in.
I've heard people say that they don't feel hunger and they just eat because they know they need to fuel their body, but I've never ever heard that somebody doesn't feel thirst. That's interesting. And I suppose for her it's even more dangerous because obviously our cognitive function is highly dependent on hydrating ourselves well. How do you teach people to pay attention to that?
Well, some of this is also because we also, I think, forget that there is water in food. So if you
Yep.
are eating like crunchy vegetables, and yes, meats, fishes, and whatever, the things that are wibbly and flexible, essentially, they have water in them. Things that are harder don't, essentially, like cheeses and what else is hard? Nuts don't really have a lot of water. So if you think about if the food is soft, it's probably got water giving
Yeah.
it that flexibility in it. So, and a lot of animals don't actually drink, they only eat. And their diet provides them the appropriate amount of water, which I personally find fascinating.
It is fascinating.
But in terms of building a habit, as we both have a jug. I personally think having a jug to remind you to use that jug available makes drinking easier.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. It is very easy to just forget to drink if your water is not in front of you.
I mean,
But the converse of that is you don't need to keep knocking it back all the time. And I know I've personally had habit problems with overbuilding that habit to the point of I was drinking so much it was hurting and I had to back off.
I was going to say that I'm pretty certain that I've heard somewhere, kind of recently, that you even that like drink a glass of water an hour, you kind of need to be aware that you need to give your kidneys a little bit of a break as well. And I suppose if you drink water, like a glass of water every hour, I mean, I'm not a biologist or a physicist. Sure, that's plenty of time in between to give your kidney a little break. But I don't know.
We are one of the few mammals that have constantly working kidneys. So our kidneys work 24/7, 365. They do not ever stop extracting water out of our bodies and
Okay.
filtering and doing the wonderful, amazing job that the kidneys do. So if we are not putting water in, the kidneys then can't do their
Right.
job. The liver then has to help the kidneys out with the filtering. One of the reasons why lots of fitness people say start the day with a pint of water is because overnight your kidneys have been being efficient and have been dragging water out of your body. So we all theoretically start the day mildly dehydrated because our kidneys are doing their job.
Gosh, that very much leads on to the next thing I've got here on my notes is talk about caffeine. And so many
Mm.
people, instead of starting with a glass of water to rehydrate their bodies, they start with a cup of coffee, which is then dehydrating, has got dehydrating effects anyway. How does that work?
That's a whole segue into modern society, hustle culture, and the fact that theoretically we need to be on all the time. I personally don't think starting the day with a cup of coffee is a good thing because not only does caffeine dehydrate you, it also gangs up with the cortisol that your body naturally releases to wake you up. So it's giving your adrenal glands a really hard time um, to make you wake up. And that leads to long term chronic issues further down the line.
What sort of chronic issues?
Well, as humans, we are really good at not doing the thing that's going to kill us now today, but we oh yeah, that's later. I'll worry about that later. And so chronic issues, adrenal glands causing excess tiredness. Um, you've also got that cumulative dehydration around skin quality, brain fog, where we're dragging our brain quality down because we are using caffeine to effectively borrow energy from tomorrow. You have to pay that energy back. And that will also then knock on to potential sleep issues, heart arrhythmias. There's a whole bunch of cascade effects that are, it's like watching the train wreck in slow motion.
If you were listening to this thinking this is exactly where I get stuck, that is not accidental. You have the business strategies, but leaking energy and focus through weak personal health routines. This is the work I do privately with business owners who are ready to build their routines so their business can run without it costing them their health. Why is it that, coffee and caffeine dominates professional culture? That's almost like it's such a paradox, isn't it? When it's actually contributing to dehydration and lack of cognitive function.
that there are benefits to having caffeine. Humans have been drinking caffeine. Well, we've been eating it ever since we discovered tea and coffee in the world. They are alkaloids we have been well evolved to deal with. And there are definite studies that show the benefits of consuming caffeine. There are also studies that show the detriments of consuming caffeine. I personally know I used to be a Diet Coke addict. I still am, but I haven't had one in literally over 10 years now. It's coming up
Is that what you call a
in November.
recovering Diet Coke addict?
Yeah, I'm a recovering Diet Cokeaholic. And one of the best things I ever did for my health was stop drinking 2.5 litres of Diet Coke a day because it would wake me up. It was my go-to fluid in the morning, just like a cup of coffee. And the people in the office knew, don't talk to Nicola until she's drunk a Diet Coke.
Well, it's kind of the same as don't talk to someone until they had their cup of coffee kind of thing. So what are the smarter ways of taking coffee? I know that people recommend don't drink coffee for the first 90 minutes of being woken and then have a little bit to kind of enhance your performance. But once watched the documentary where somebody was given some energy drink, obviously that's got caffeine in it. And after the first one, she performed much better at this, I don't know, some game they were playing, but it needed calculation. When she had the second one, her performance dropped absolutely dramatically.
There is definitely peak amount of caffeine. You can over caffeinate just with any drug. Too much is not a good thing. And so finding out where your sweet spot is, for some people it's quite a bit, for other people it's none at all. I know definitely one of my friends can't drink coffee or caffeine or Diet Coke at all, gets heart palpitations immediately. So for them, it is a zero amount is the right amount. We are all our own n=1 experiment. So finding out where our tolerances are to substance, and there are genetic markers where some people can deal with caffeine better than others. That's just again part of the way where we evolved shows what type of substances we deal better with. It is just the epigenetic stuff. Again, we could talk about that for half an hour. So in terms of caffeine, I would completely agree. Have water first or some form of fluid that is non-caffeinated. So if that's squash or herbal tea, as in fruit tea, or any other form of flavored water, preferably not sweetened. But if that's what it gets to get you to drink it, and then have the caffeine once you are properly hydrated and your body has got that fluid into it and things are moving in the ways that they should be moving,
Is there a
both
difference?
electrically and fluidically.
Yeah. Is there a difference between having cold or hot water or drink first thing in the morning?
Not as far as I'm aware. I've not done any study specifically. I have done study into cold versus ice cold, not rather than
Okay.
hot. And because, of course, our body has to have homeostasis, and I came at this research rabbit holing it about 15 years ago. With if you drink colder water, your body has to heat it up to room temperature. So you're using more energy to heat that water up.
So drink ice water to lose weight because it uses up more calories in your body.
The energy it's going to be using is insignificant paired with other things. But it's definitely one of those things around, yes, you put it in and it will become your heat because we are 37 degrees, hopefully. And so there's a part of the passive heating of the water and the active, well, it becomes part of your blood, therefore it has to be. So that
Body
there
temperature,
was the
yes.
argument around cold water being more effective if you want to be more thermogenic. Because of course, if you put something cold in, your body has to produce energy to make you warmer. But as to hot, the inverse logic of that is if you put something hot in, your body will stop being warm because it has to cool down. I've never done a study on that. That would be the inverse logic, but I cannot back that up with anything. Science, only my logic and science. On the grand scheme of peristalsis is normally stimulated by food and stomach stretch. Effectively, we have what's called stretch receptors in the stomach.
Okay.
And peristalsis is the thing that causes effectively waves down the bowel to make things exit. That is stimulated when you put input in. And then, of course, the chemistry in coffee encourages the peristalsis to get faster. Magnesium does the same thing. If there are certain forms of magnesium that cause peristalsis to actively happen, fat causes peristalsis to actively happen. So there are. I don't think hot or cold water really makes a difference in that, but I will happily be proved wrong. And I know I'm going to finish this and go and have a
Yeah,
quick go and
probably
look.
I will have a look because I tell you what, this question's been on my mind for some considerable time. So going back to hydration and performance, can we just go back to the electrolytes? So the five
Mm.
electrolytes you mentioned at the beginning, how do they affect our cognitive performance, especially when we are in business and we are constantly on and high performing?
Four metals act in pairs. Sodium and magnesium keeps water in the cells. Potassium and calcium keeps water out of the cells. So between those, they allow our cells to be appropriately hydrated. And of course, brain cells are the same in that respect as other cells as well. So having the four electrolytes to balance cellular water, fabulous. But in terms of then having those electrolytes in, you have the cell balance, you then also have electrical effects. So I think it's the phosphates contribute to the electrical effects of the neurons and the firing. So every single nerve has a synapse that fires a tiny little piece of electricity across. We do not have continuous wiring, let's put it like that. They all have tiny little gaps with a little axion at the end. And the signals are both chemical and electrical that travel across. So you need the water for them to be able to travel chemically. You need the water for it to be able to connect electrically. And the electrolytes enhance those electrical connections.
Fascinating.
Very
Absolutely
complex. Again,
fascinating.
it sits here, and there is a on my brain. There is a whole, as I say, water chemistry. You have to find an appropriate person. I scratched the surface of it enough to know what I needed to know to help
But
people.
still, it's absolutely fascinating to talk about it.
Mm.
So are there any roles of hydration that we are just simply not aware of, but it's really important?
Well, we've already mentioned going to the loo. Most people don't think about stool as part of its makeup has hydration in it. If it didn't, it would be hard and lumpy. And if it
Mm,
is hard and lumpy, then you're not drinking enough water because
yeah.
it needs to be able to have that lube to flow through the bowel. I've talked about electrical effects till the cows come home. As I say, having that appropriate hydration allows the brain to be able to function appropriately so that one of the first signals of dehydration is normally a little bit of a dry tongue
Yeah.
and a little bit of the world going with the brain slightly. I know I've not drunk enough, nearly enough, because I get what I call a wet sock across my eyes. Oh, okay. I need to go and drink some water. Probably have some food as well. Make sure that I put a little bit of salt on there and get everything back in balance. Doesn't happen very often because normally I'm on it, but
Yeah.
but this is finding out your own signals. Of course, most people run ever so slightly dehydrated because we like our tea and coffee as a nation, as a world, and so we are not thinking as fast as we could. That in terms of making business choices could mean that we are not making the most informed choices that we could make. Because
Mm,
if we are not thinking with 100% clarity, we're only thinking with like 90% clarity. Most of the time, 90% is going to be fine. But there are definitely those big choices, those structural things that we need to make that mean if we are not 100% on the game, and water is only one of those pillars that will get us 100% on the game, then we aren't making the best decisions we could do in our businesses and in our lives. And as you say, routine is revenue. Going back to building a habit, having a
absolutely.
jug, having a glass, not a little glass, having a bigger glass, and making sure the habit of one of those a day or two of
Yeah.
those a day,
I mean,
probably at most.
you mentioned that we all need to find our own triggers and our own signs, but do you have a couple of sort of particular techniques up your sleeve that you can advise people to use in order to be able to sort of embed those good habits to make sure that they hydrate throughout the day properly?
I'm sure
Oh, yeah, the
most of
jug.
your listeners have heard about anchoring. So you anchor a new habit to one you already have. So if your habit is to make a cup of coffee, when you've made your cup of coffee, grab a glass as well as you're doing it and fill up the glass. So you've then got a cup of coffee and a glass of water.
Or drink the glass
And
of
then
water while the kettle is boiling, and then the coffee needs to go a little
absolutely.
cooler to be able to drink it. So by then you would have had your glass of water. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you've anchored a new habit into an existing habit. As I say, I'm a great pro of having a jug or a bottle or whatever. I must admit, I like a clear glass jug or a clear because it's glass, so it's not going to give you any nasty plasticky stuff. But you can see, so any see-through vessel, I can see that I've had some water today. And that in itself is a little dopamine hit of, oh yes, I've done that thing. Having things that you can see through as your vessel to get the water into your body, I personally think is a good idea.
Yeah.
So chaining that coffee habit or the tea habit, if you have a cup of tea, as I say, I've got my cups of tea. I'm having making sure that if I have a cup of tea, I'm then having a little bit of water, and just keeping that there, making sure that it just becomes second nature, building
Yeah,
those
it kind
things
of
in.
dilutes that sort of caffeine intake as well, doesn't it? A little bit.
Well, it's helping your body to process effectively a toxin. I can't
Yeah.
remember if it's the liver or the I can't remember if it's the liver or the kidneys that deals with the caffeine itself, but the hydration helps the filtration systems of the body to deal with the toxin because they all
Yeah.
toxins have to be dealt with immediately. So alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, anything that is normally gives us a mild buzz, but is actually long-term chronic toxin. Those things we, oh yeah, I'll worry about that later. Those long-term toxins have to be dealt with immediately by the body to get them out. So that's your liver and your kidneys. The best thing you can do to assist your liver and your kidneys is stay hydrated.
Yeah, if you neck a bottle of wine, no wonder your kidneys and your liver can't deal with it. But yeah, there's the
Well,
advice as well, isn't it, that when you drink alcohol, for every glass of alcohol, you should be drinking a glass of water. Then you would feel like you're never getting drunk. Then what's the point? But then what's the point of getting drunk if you're then losing an entire day at the end of it, the next day, when you're trying to, well, your body trying to recover. But anyway, again, that's
absolutely.
again, having or not having alcohol is a completely different conversation altogether. But
Absolutely.
just to round it off, so the global bottled water industry is apparently worth some 300 billion dollars. Hydration supplements, electrolytes sachets, like we talked about electrolytes, even smart water bottles that track your intake, which could be a good one. Although you mentioned about the plastic thing and having glass rather than plastic, but apparently the world has turned drinking water into an entire consumer category. So, have you made the simplest health habits needlessly complicated? And what would you tell someone who is about to spend £40 on a hydration supplement?
Don't. Most, what is it, first world countries, to use an imperialistic term, we have drinking water out the tap. So we pay however much in rates to get drinking
Yeah.
water. We might need to use a filter mostly for taste. I have a Brita filter on my tap because my water is very chlorinated. So I
Mm,
have the Brita filter that takes the chlorine out, and that's about as far as it goes. But that's tap. Always
yeah.
chateau where I live. Electrolytes. I personally think if you use low salt on your food and take magnesium glycinate at night, you're probably covered. I can see if you are an athlete using something like the electrolyte salts to make a salted water, although you can make it yourself by making a bit of salt and a bit of. Dr. Berry and his wife have keto aid, and they have a recipe of how you can make it yourself. It's on the internet.
Okay.
And again, a few drops of this, couple of bits of that, bit of no salt, they call it in America, and that's 100% potassium, bit of normal salt, bit of Himalayan, some magnesium drops, a little, I think they put essential oil in it to make it better in fizzy water, and they're all done. So you can make these yourself incredibly cheaply. We have made a whole industry out of something that is really very, very simple. And yes, buying fancy bottles, the latest fashion in the fancy cups, it's all just a way to drag money out of our pockets. That is not giving us revenue. It's giving them revenue, but it's not giving us revenue.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
yeah, in all things, just keep it simple. Make sure that you've had appropriate water. Say season your food, I say, with low salt in the UK because it's 50-50, and take a magnesium supplement at night. If you are up north where they have no calcium in the water, you probably also want to think about putting some calcium in as well. A little bit of dairy normally sorts that out, or some kale or calcium-rich vegetables. But generally speaking, as long as you're eating good nutrition, you don't really need to worry about it, unless you're an athlete that's running about like there's no tomorrow, or you're someone that does the
And
train
you need
and
to.
you're sweating a lot and you're getting rid of it that way. Then you definitely need to put it back in, because you will go flump. So yes, putting salts back in if you are moving, stretching, sweating, and generally vigorous, 100% has to happen. If you're a desk job person, not so much. You probably are normally covering it with what you eat.
Nicola, fabulous. I love your energy. Obviously, you're drinking the good kind of water that fires you up. Thank you so much for your insights. I'm really quite pleased that we managed to explore hydration as a topic. It's been so difficult to find somebody to bring into this podcast to talk about hydration. So I'm super pleased that finally it's made it. Thank you so much for your insights and knowledge and sharing it with us.
You are more than welcome, and thank you for having me.
If this episode has shown you where weak health routines are costing you revenue, your next step is simple. Ask yourself this question: is your business draining your energy faster than it grows? If the answer might be yes, I invite you to book a conversation via the link in the show notes. If this conversation made you think, please subscribe, leave a comment, and listen again. If you would like more information on the topic or my guest, all information is in the show notes. Remember, your business will only ever be as healthy as you. Together, let's build routines to bank results.